I'm Bill Carroll. I'm the moderator. I'm on this panel every year, uh, and now every 3 years, every year, but only it counts 3 years. Anna's chairman of the town council, and Jim Sullivan is chairman of FinCom. That's the makeup of the committee that reviews people. We have two openings here.
Okay.
We've reviewed your resume, asset management, fiscal knowledge. But the first question I asked, just to warm things up, and it's a real softball, and I will assume it's to give back to the community. But why are you interested in this position?
Well, I mean, I mentioned it in my write-up. I've been in Wakefield 14 years. We bought a house in 2006. My wife grew up in Wakefield, and now I have an 11-year-old in 6th grade and an 8-year-old in 3rd grade. One at the Galvin, one at the Walton, and I do want to kind of give back. I mean, I like living in Wakefield. I know a lot is going on. I speak to many people, and I know some people on the finance committee, and there's a lot going on in Wakefield when you drive around, and it would be interesting to give back and be part of that, and be part of the decision making and planning, and see how the pieces fall together, and give my input and analysis on how I feel on, budgets, et cetera, and plans, and what the town has on their agenda.
What attributes or strengths do you think you would bring to the FinCom?
Well, I kind of grew up in the accounting world out of college, and then have just kind of been in the financial analysis role, particularly in the real estate industry, and worked for a developer in Boston for many years, 8 years or so, and worked my way from accounting to the asset management side. So, I was sitting in between the details in accounting, which is the debits and credits, and then kind of the higher budgets and analysis and planning for cash flows and distributions and capital calls that would be necessary in the funds that we had. So it was a good transition for me to get out of the detail and kind of be able to process that detail, but also utilize some of that information in the larger, budget of the particular fund, and then even bigger, the firm-wide planning. So then I moved over to Wells Fargo, and I manage a portfolio of 50 or so real estate investments that we have across the country. And I deal with GPs across the board who kind of man the ship in the locations where we have these assets. But I'm kind of the intermediary between the bank puts up the funds and, the project gets run on the ground by the GP. So it's, again, balancing the details that the GP provides on the floor as what they want to do and where the budgets are panning out. And this is from a construction level up front. We build from the ground up a majority of our deals. So I have to process, again, the details at the ground level from the GP, and then kind of synthesize that for the higher management of Wells Fargo to, make a decision on how to move forward when things go astray, say over budget, or, in good cases under budget. So I've been able to, finesse the details and bring together the bigger picture for senior management to make decisions and provide my input as well along the way. So that's what I think I would bring based on my experience.
Speaking of college, you're a jumbo, huh?
I am a jumbo, yeah.
How'd you end up in Medford?
It's a great school, great campus.
No, it is a great school. I was afraid of Medford. I went back to Worcester instead. I got waltzed.
What's so bad about Medford? I grew up in Malden. It wasn't that bad.
I was from Schenectady. I was afraid of it. It's not the city. It was me I was talking about, Jim. No, I was.
Yeah.
I got yeah. They needed a 6'4" slow white guy to shoot some jump shots, but not in Medford. Yeah. Does your let me ask you this: is your business? Do they encourage community participation?
My company?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in affordable housing, so it's almost the definition of community service. we provide affordable housing up across the, particularly focus on the East Coast, but across the United States. So I work for the Department of Community Lending and Investment.
Oh, there you go.
And what that means, and part of CRA credits for banks. So inherently in my job, I give back to the community, and this would be an opportunity to just kind of focus on my community and give back to Wakefield.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Jim is actually on FinCom. He knows the nuts and bolts and how it works. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Jim.
Okay.
Great. So David, thank you. What do you know about the FinCom? Have you followed it at all or anything like that?
Well, I cross paths with Doug Butler and Gerard every once in a while. I've tapped their brain a little bit about it. From what I understand, you guys don't have the final or say on any particular budgets, but you, again, similar to what I was saying, kind of synthesize all of the pieces, the schools, the capital projects, et cetera, and put it together to, as your master budget of sorts. And you kind of steer that towards the town council or town meeting, and kind of you are the masters of control of the budget.
Yep. No, I think that's a pretty good synopsis. We help with the budgets. We give guidance with the budgets, and ultimately we bring a recommendation to the floor of the town meeting. We're the Ways and Means Committee, I think, has been called before. Right, Bill?
Yeah, I like that. I've never heard that before. I like that, Jim. That's cool. Yeah.
So. Yeah. So anyway, you got it right. To the extent that you know a little bit about us, so that's good. And I think it's important to know, we don't ultimately approve the money, right? We work with others to get the money approved. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
As far as the time commitment goes, you familiar with it? You have knowledge of that part of it?
A little bit. Is it once a month, every once in a while? But then there's that busy period in February to April-ish or something like that, where
so
more involved.
Right, it's twice a month, and then there's a subcommittee that you deal with. So there is that peak period in the fall spring season, no doubt, and preparation for a fall meeting, etc. I would say it's less commitment than, say, town council for sure, but we have our stretches, and it requires homework, to be prepared to really dive into some of these budgets and these spreadsheets. That's where the value comes in with us, quote unquote, making time for that. So that's good. If you were part of our committee, we have subcommittees associated with departments. Do you have any thoughts on particular departments that would interest you to help? So a subcommittee sits down with the department head, kind of reviews the budget almost line by line and that sort of thing. A couple of meetings, 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, or sometimes it's morning meetings in the subcommittee side to be with the department heads. But it's not an only type thing. But if you had a choice for that type of thing. Any department in particular?
I mean, this obviously, because of my kids, the schools would be one that I would definitely put on that list. Another might be like capital planning across the town. I think that's its own kind of line item. And
it's its own subcommittee. It's a subcommittee. It's a committee.
Yeah.
You got it. Yep.
And I don't know if there's a committee for it's kind of the obvious one is just the downtown improvements and downtown strip of revitalization, et cetera, regarding the roads, the facades, et cetera, and the wonderful parks we have down there, et cetera.
Yep.
So those would be my top three, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, and just as relative to the last one, we deal with the departments. So the revitalization is a separate committee, not a department. So just so you know, we don't really get too involved in that. So on the financial planning side, I sort of have a question about that, but you explained yourself as being in real estate, ground up development, and Wells Fargo being the, on the lending side, similar thing. You have to really vet out your projects and things like that, right? For the housing and so forth,
Hmm.
for lending. So as far as your own financial planning and considering financial planning, is that something you give thought to or have anything to do with?
Yeah, on a personal level, or
Yeah,
yeah,
just what's your mindset on financial planning? Really, that's
yeah.
more
I'm
asking
I'm
question.
kind of the financial planner of my house and
Yep.
and my family, and I inherently in my job I do some financial planning for our investments just to make
Yep.
sure that they're panning out as underwriting. I mean, the underwriters can underwrite it and financial engineer it to get approved, but then the reality is, and that's one thing I like about asset management, is it always doesn't pan out exactly how it's penciled out in the underwriting.
Right.
And once you get to actual real life situations, which is how I classify asset management, it's figuring out how to still get across the finish line and solve them, and put the pieces together in place that can get you there.
Great.
I spend a
Thank
lot
you.
of time on my personal stuff, and as well.
No, understood. Thank you.
All right, I think I'll jump in. Jim, are you done?
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Hi, David. As Bill mentioned, I'm chair of the town council. I've been on for 8 years, almost 8 years, I think. Have you ever served on any other municipal committees, not just Wakefield, but in your experience?
I have not.
Which does not preclude you from joining a committee. Everyone has to jump in first.
It might be a plus.
It might be a plus, exactly.
Good blood, right?
You said you had 2 kids in the school system. Have you done any volunteering around their activities or in school or?
Yeah, I'm always on board for a good field trip, et cetera, and whatever the schools need. I mean, as they're always asking for help. So I try to make myself available for the personal enjoyment and also make it easier for the teachers and administrators, et cetera.
Good.
And I'll throw out there too. I mean, I manage a bunch of sports teams for the kids and coach them in multiple sports. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't just throw it out there. I think that's important. I think it shows. I think all of us here have done that.
yeah,
huge.
baseball, basketball. Yeah, it's a circus, but it's a fun time.
Yes, telling the T-ball kids to run to first base as opposed to third.
Been there, yeah.
Some of my favorite memories. No, I think it shows a commitment to the town. So don't put that down. What do you think is town services? I mean, we're all involved in it up to our ears. What's the greatest strength that town services does in your viewpoint in Wakefield? Or what can we do?
So when you say town services, you mean
Anything, DPW, any of the departments, the committees?
I don't know if you ever hear this one, but everyone usually says it. I mean, the gas and light light department,
Yep.
When the trees fall down or the lights go out, they're on within hours. I mean, I think that's the most amazing part
Yep.
of having a municipal gas and light,
Right.
department. But that's an easy one. I mean, other than that, you can see, like I said, I've been here for 14 years. You can see the efforts, and it's taking longer than I think anyone would like, but the efforts to revitalize or update, however you want to say it, the downtown, whether it's
Sure.
through the roads or through the businesses that you try to get in there. It's a difficult challenge, but I think, Wakefield's done a pretty good job at, trying to move forward. I don't think anyone would say we're there yet, but
We actually have a huge project in the next few years, Envision Wakefield, where we already have the beginning grants. And once that starts to kick in, I think it'll be nice to see what we can do downtown.
Yeah, I've been following that a little bit too, and it's a good plan, and it doesn't happen overnight. So, and then the only other thing I would say is obviously the schools. I mean, my boy's in the Galvin, and we've been able to enjoy that benefit that was created a few years ago. There's a hot topic with the high school, but I think that was a huge benefit to the town.
Yep. No,
And
absolutely.
it's doing, I don't hear many bad comments at all, if any, about the Galvin,
So I really liked what you said about affordable housing, only because I think that's also in our future. Some vestige of that with a lot of the buildings happening. But so I'm going to say a slightly dirty word, override, but I'm going to couch it with also debt exclusion, which is typically how we try to focus our big projects. So
yes.
it's not just a general override. Folks know what their taxes are going up for.
Yep.
How do you, you mentioned high school. How do you feel about financially that process, whether it's an override or a specific debt exclusion?
Well, I actually learned the difference between those two at one of the last meetings or before COVID hit at the theater there at the high school. They had a presentation, and I don't know who exactly explained it, but the debt exclusion is a nicer term, I guess, in my opinion.
Well put.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and you just kind of set it for 10 years, I think it is, and or whatever the term is agreed upon, and that's what it is, and then once it's paid for, and it's gone, and theoretically your taxes would go down, but you can process that. At least I can, a little easier than the override, or stomach it a little better than an override. So I would, if you're asking my personal opinion, I think the debt exclusion, I think, is my personal, I would vote for that methodology to finance it.
Sure. Okay. Bill, I'll throw it back to you to see if David has any questions for us.
Have you been to town meeting?
I have a couple of times, yep.
Okay.
Mostly on the big ticket items with the schools.
Right. The popular draws, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've seen how the work of FinCom is. Sherman leans over and says, approved. But there's a lot more work, as Jim has explained,
Sure.
that leads up to that. So, and occasionally we'll get into a little kerfuffle. That's always fun and interesting, where FinCom wants to do something different. And all right. So yeah, I'm done. Anybody else? Any follow-up,
I
Jim?
did have one question.
Good.
What would precipitate someone to try to hike 2,160 miles?
Youth.
Well, good for you. Well
Yeah.
done.
That was a while ago, but I don't know. I just was on a different path, I guess.
No pun
I am
intended.
impressed.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us, David?
You hit the points that I was looking to clarify, just the time commitment and, a little bit more about what you do. What's the time frame for, I think you said there's 2 spots. What's the time frame for allotting those 2 spots?
Couple of days.
Okay.
Couple days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've
And
already,
I'll if you guys, I didn't discuss this with Jim, but Ann knows, I'll call you. I used to coach the 6th, 7th, and 8th travel basketball. I did it with my oldest son, my next son, and then I took a year off. And what I like to think was by popular acclaim, I came back and did it again. And it is, when you have to cut somebody from the team, it's the worst thing that you could do. So I have experience in the job.
right on.
So, yeah. And it's easier. I don't want to harm either of their reputations, so I'm always the bad guy in this process. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
so
thanks
much
a lot.
for spending some
Thank
time
you.
with us.
All right. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
We'll be in touch soon.
Yep.
Take care.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks.
Saratin, is that you?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. We can't.
All
There
right.
you are.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh, wait, it looks a little dark here.
That's okay. We can still see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Ann has her lighting person in.
No,
I know.
I learned a trick to put little cheap gooseneck lamps in behind the screen, and it does good lighting. I don't know.
Oh.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, because people always say that my light is not light enough, but no matter how much I adjust, I never get it right.
All right, we
Anyway,
can
only
see,
during the day,
right.
because the combination of the daylight and my lamp. At any rate,
Bill, I'll
Good
send it to
evening.
you.
Yeah, okay, Saratan, you've been through this process before.
Of
I always,
course.
Ann is chairman of the town council, so she's on again, and Jim is chairman of the FinCom, and that's the makeup.
Okay, excellent.
That's the makeup of the committee, and the questions will be, here's the first one. It's a softball just to get things rolling. I know everybody wants to give back to the community, but why else do you want to apply for FinCom?
So I am heavily involved in many things, a few things here in Wakefield. My time is very limited, but one of the things that I am very eager to do, as you know, I applied before, is to be able to give back in this capacity, because I want to know how we can get creative around the finances of the town. I want to be part of a team that looks at that's able to make those decisions and approve votes. And I mean, I have the experience, so I think it's a great way to put my experience to use for a town in which I am a part of. I'm gonna live here. I'm raising a family here. My kids are in school, and there's a lot of things that actually happen in the town that impact financially, that impact our lives. So what better way to give back than to serve in this capacity, or to be able to serve in this
What
capacity?
attributes or strengths would you particularly bring as a matter of the FinCom, or as a member of the FinCom, I'm sorry?
So I feel like my experience,
Which
my
is what?
passion.
Could you expand on that?
I have a background in nonprofit management, and I've served in many ways, in many nonprofit in their finance committees. So I bring that. I'm also in banking administration. So I know, and because of that experience, I look at budgets left and right, and I feel like that is, I think, a little bit of what my experience is. I'm not the best at talking about myself. I'm not like many people. You just ask them and they just can't stop talking about themselves. That's not one of my gifts.
I'm giving a seminar on that. I can help you out.
I might take you up on that.
Hey, you stop laughing.
Oh.
Hey, let me ask you this. Have you been to town meeting?
I have. I go to town meetings. Typically, it's easier now because it's on Zoom. But I typically go when there is an issue to vote on that I'm passionate about. I have served, like I said, on a multitude of boards, which prevent me to kind of get out on the days that it falls on sometimes. So, but I'm always, if I don't get to it, I make sure I look at the recordings of it. So, but I participate. I am heavily involved in the community. So, yeah. I know that was one of the questions the last time, and at that point, I was very honest that about it a few years ago, where I wasn't going as much as I would have liked to have gone.
I've asked this, and Ed Dombrowski and what do you call it? They said it honestly at the time, and the words of Rick Pitino, I meant it at the time, but this is not some sort of stepping stone for some other political office, is it?
Not at all, because if that was the case, I think if you really look at my background, I already have in my background everything that I would need to run for office. I learned during my campaign that my desire is really to serve my community. In what capacity is, it's what the opportunity, and it has to be combined with what I'm passionate about. So this is just another way of me to be able to serve my community. Whether I want to run for office, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, okay, I no longer want to run for office after my experience, as crazy as it was. Because if I tell you that, I'd be lying. You know, every time I see something that goes on or someone's running for office, I just get that, oh, I just want to do it. I can. But then I look at the bigger picture and I'm like, I can't do it, and not right now. So what I'm saying in short is that I would be lying to you if I told you I'm not ever running for office again, and it's not in the back of my mind. I will eventually do it again. In what capacity, I'm not sure. But right now, I am committed to serving in this capacity should I be the candidate that you choose.
Got it. Okay, we're going to flip over to Jim. He's got more questions about the FinCom and how it operates and what the expectations are.
All right, thank you. So, are you familiar with finance? Do you know how the finance committee works and what the role is in the town government?
You can elaborate. I'm pretty familiar, but you can elaborate. Like I said, I've belonged to a number of boards, and I've been chair and played a number of roles in those boards surrounding finance committees. So, but you can explain what the role, that would be very helpful, Jim.
All right. So the the role of the finance committee is to support department heads and in the overall town budget, reviewing the town budget, making comments, reviewing activities and line by line items, long-term planning, trying to understand the budgets, and we again support people. We make recommendations to the ultimately to the town meeting. So we kind of we review the budgets before they go to town meeting, similar to a larger capacity. When you think about the state, there are committees that review budgets before they go before the full legislature, or they have these committees that will combine things. So, so we review the budgets. We help the department heads with subcommittees. We meet as subcommittees to actually get into a deeper dive into the particular budgets in smaller groups, and then they bring that back to the body, and we discuss it. We vote on each of the budgets and make recommendations. Again, vote on our opinion of the budgets, make a recommendation. So. The town council reviews budgets and approves budgets, and then the combination thereof goes to the town meeting. So,
okay,
that's who we are.
Pretty much what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as far as time goes, there's a big bubble of commitment in the fall and out into the spring in advance of the town meeting. I'm just trying to understand if you're aware of that and you feel you can make the commitment. We meet about every other week during the peak period, twice a month, and then it slows down once we're prepared for Springtown meeting. And the subcommittees themselves meet as well, either a couple of mornings for a particular committee or evening meetings as well. So, what do you think about the time commitment?
The time commitment isn't an issue. The only reason that was going to be one of my questions, because I am actually taking a step back on a number of the boards, which is why I decided to submit a letter of interest. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to commit, because I do have quite a lot on my plate right now with between homeschooling, going through a core conversion at our financial institution, and a pandemic. So I have made the choice to step back from a number of things. And then this came up and I said, this is perfect, because this is something that is one of my criterias of getting involved in anything else, is that it has to be for the town in which I live in, and that it has to be something that is along the line of what I currently do, and that it has to be the best use of my time that I can think of, and this fits all those items. So yes, I would commit to that time.
All right. So as I described, we help guide the department heads and work with Steve Mayo, the town administrator, but the subcommittees are more department based. So if you were chosen for the position, what kind of subcommittee would you think you would be interested in? Which type of department would be interesting to you?
I think school, something related to the school, or even town employees, like anything related to police, fire, you know, I would like being involved in the budget of those things, those
Okay.
departments.
Yep. So a lot of the people departments, very good. And as far as yourself goes, or, you know, what's your approach to like your own financial planning? You know, do you have a mindset of how you think about financial planning?
My husband actually handles the financials in our home, but
Honest answers are good answers. That's fine.
yeah. So, but I mean, I am a little bit of a risk taker. I kind of, which wouldn't probably be the best answer, but that is the answer. I look at what the need is of the department or the individual and the people that are there, to then figure out with a team how to best approach a situation. For example, if there is a budget cut, like how do we get creative on figuring this out in a way that everybody will be happy? How do we meet halfway? Or how can we look at the resources that are available, grants, just explore all the options before shutting something down? For me, people come first. And especially if they're working for the town, our teachers. And so that to me is it's all about resources. I can't jump to a decision and say, listen, we don't have it right now. My way and my approach is more in looking at how do we make this happen? How do we get this? If it's a need, how can we make this happen?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, that's how I look at
Again, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
So I'll ask you some questions from the town, kind of the town council in the broader view, Saratine. Have you ever been, just initially, have you ever served on any municipal committee, not even just Wakefield?
No, actually. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, great.
I'm typically a nonprofit board.
Sure.
I'm very involved in like just being in the know around municipalities, but not, I haven't served in a municipal committee, no.
Okay. Everyone
this would be a
starts
first.
somewhere. Sure.
Yeah.
And we ask this of everyone with regard to kind of how have you been involved in Wakefield before? So, you know, whether it's coaching a child's team or PTO or volunteering, can you tell us a little bit about that kind of work in Wakefield?
Yes, actually, since I moved to the town, as I do anywhere that I am, or if any community that I am a part of, I do make that effort to become engaged, become involved, and not just show up, but do and actively be part and become a fabric of that community. And you know, I started when when I first moved here, I submitted an application for the Human Rights Commission, for the Wakefield Human Rights Commission. I didn't get in, which for one reason or another, that just triggered this interest in saying, you know, I really, really want to serve. So what are you going to do? What, you know, you need to do something. And then I went into running for office. Yeah. And so I said, I'm going to just run this campaign. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. I know how to raise money. And so I did that in an attempt to really be involved and help my community in one of the highest level possible, because I was willing to leave a great job for that. And then that didn't work out, so I continued to remain involved. But one of the things that I learned from that experience was a lot about our seniors and the work that and the support and resources that our seniors need, and just people being lonely. I mean, I would knock on doors and sit for hours at a time speaking to someone that just needed someone to listen to their issues.
Sure.
Yeah, so maybe you are not going to be able to do something about it, but I really need you to listen. And it just kind of triggered this other passion and another way for me to support the town and support the people of the town. And so I started organizing these annual holiday dinner for the seniors at Harts Hill Heights.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year, but it has been something that it includes elected officials, it includes residents, it includes Wakefield moms, it includes the kids, the Girl Scouts, and that's something else that I pride myself on, is that I like bringing people together.
Mhm.
I like being able to do something together with and getting people engaged that can help that's for the benefit of others.
Sure.
So this is something that I continue to do for the seniors, and we collect, we do like gloves and hats and winter gear drive. We kind of give them gift cards, and you know, it's something that we pride ourselves in doing as a team, and I was happy to be able to do that. I also do a lot of activities with the kids in Wakefield and the moms, and I volunteer for hockey. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm very involved. Like I said, my kids play soccer, my kids play hockey, my kids play t-ball. So through any of those initiatives, if I'm able to support and help, I will get involved. If I am needed, I will be there, and I will make the time to be there and support my community.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What do you see as the greatest need for town services right now?
Well, with COVID, where you said right now, what I've seen that has happened, which is something that I did not mention, but is something that we are currently engaged in this city and the surrounding, this town and the surrounding towns. There's a group of us volunteers that are helping people that we saw that didn't necessarily, don't necessarily have the resources to obtain government benefits through COVID. Children that don't have, I mean, this is really, you know, a small group of us that come together to be able to figure out what the needs are. And I've noticed that in this community, there's a lot of immigrant families that aren't necessarily able to access resources in the community. They just need an advocate to be able to say, this is what I need, someone that they trust that can kind of navigate the resources available in the town. And I've been able to do that through the team that we work with, and being able to buy and get phones for children that don't necessarily have had it when the pandemic first began.
Sure.
And being able to deliver culturally appropriate food, because the food pantry may offer, they do an excellent job in offering food, but there's people that, because of their religion, or, you know, there are certain things that they need, that they require in their diet, they're not able to get that from your average food pantry. And we were able to, through this volunteer network, be able to obtain a list, purchase what we needed to purchase for these families, and deliver them.
Oh, that's great.
Deliver those things to them. So that is, I think, really tapping into families that there's a level of shame that just sometimes don't necessarily need financial support, but just need someone to advocate for them around the needs of their children, because they are part of this community. And they are involved because I've seen them volunteering or wanting to volunteer, or wanting to give back during the school year.
Right.
I'm familiar with all these families. They're our neighbors.
Right.
And yet they have underlying conditions that haven't necessarily been met.
Sure. No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're almost at the end, but really briefly, you know, we're building a new high school. What is well, knock on wood, we're going to be building some sort of new high school or renovation. What's your feeling about having an override or a debt exclusion to support that? So asking people in town to, you know, dip in.
Sure. Yeah. So as a part, you mean contribute to this effort?
So
Or
the
just
finance
vote for
committee would be they would probably give a thumbs up or thumbs down maybe for a recommendation for whether it's an override or a debt exclusion. As a member of the FinCom, how would you feel about that in doing, you know, supporting such a big project?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think that that's one of the reasons I moved to Wakefield was because of the school system. So this would be a huge one for me. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't believe that we do need a new high school. But as a mother of small children and as a person that is heavily involved and engaged and hear the parents' need and I just, and not only in this town, I'm from Boston.
Sure.
And I see where other towns are, and we need to make, I'm like advocating for the school already, but we need to make our kids be at that level, if not higher. So,
No, that's great.
you know,
Yeah.
I would 100% support it. And like I said, it's one of those things where you have to figure out, not when voting, is how do we make this happen and make everybody feel comfortable with it, you know? So it's a tough one, but I mean, as a mother, I honestly 100% would encourage and support.
Great. No, thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, and I just
Okay.
realized my daughter put her
Great.
name on my thing here. That's why.
That's
you
okay. We knew who you were. That was perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I'll send it back to Bill to wrap
yeah,
up.
no, we're done. That's,
Okay.
we
Okay.
run through all the questions. Thank you.
No,
right,
thank you
so-
so much.
Of course, and you answered the question of time commitment. So I have a question for you guys. I know you didn't ask me, but Jim, as a member of FinCom, what has been your best experience and what has been the worst?
I would say the best experience on the FinCom is being involved in being able to debate, you know, intelligent discussion about pros and cons and yeses and nos on the financial situations of the departments which roll up to the town. I think that's really the best overall experience of.
What's the most challenging experience?
Oh, I froze.
Yeah, well, Jim froze.
Oh, Jim froze. Okay.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
I would say the most challenging experience is the homework, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I heard the homework. When you say homework, can you elaborate a
Can
little
you
bit
hear me?
on that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
can hear
hear you. I heard homework. Can you hear me? Yeah, he's.
So
free.
I think I can jump in if Jim keeps
Yeah,
going
it's the
on.
preparation is
Yeah.
the most difficult part. And my internet,
Okay.
Sorry.
So is the information provided how far in advance to the meeting?
The information is sometimes just in time.
Okay. All right.
Okay, yeah.
All
We've
right,
got,
but that's it.
yeah, we've got, we're in overtime here, so we've got another
Okay,
candidate
excellent,
coming up.
excellent.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you. All right, have a great night.
You too.
Okay,
Take
thanks.
care.
All right.
I
Teray,
would have said working with Dan Sherman.
is the first answer or second? Teray jumped in, so he's probably just, and then he
Trying
pulled
to
out.
be politically sensitive.
Yeah. I wish, do we have Teray's number?
I'll email him.
Yeah, because I know that he got out. He didn't have to get out. This is a public meeting, but he got
Right.
out very quickly.
Can you hear me all right again, or should I log in and out? Am I okay?
I can hear you, but it says your
Your
bandwidth
bandwidth
is
is
low.
low.
I can hear a bunch of people in the other room, so I don't know if the 20-something-year-old showed up or something and are taking my bandwidth.
Oh, yeah, we were down the vineyard. That was killing us.
Yeah.
We had to go around tell everybody to shut off their phones so Nancy could work. Let me call him. Might
Okay.
be even. I'm gonna do something old fashioned. I'm gonna call him on the phone.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I'll be right there. I just want to see if anybody is using the internet.
Sure. Okay, Jim.
Okay.
We weren't, if I was more sophisticated, I should have made a waiting room for people to pop into. I know. Is it ringing?
Yeah, it did. They want me to leave him a message.
Oh, let's, all right.
I just emailed him. I'll email him again.
Okay.
He might be there, just.
No, there's only 3 of us. If you have his, I
Yeah,
can,
I just emailed him.
okay.
When I saw him come on, I told him I emailed him and said we're still, finishing up.
Okay.
So,
He'll get on.
yeah, he'll be here.
What's happening with the Celtics, Bill?
Oh, Smart blew that game last night, and I don't think Brad does not look good in this series. He does not look good in this series.
No.
He's being outcoached.
Yeah.
Spo was always underrated because of Riley. I think they thought everybody was Riley was the puppet master, and LeBron, he had such a great roster, but that's a challenge in and of itself.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Light a fire under Tatum in the first half, and Smart, for all his, he wants it to be his team because he's older.
Yeah.
His 2 turnovers
Yeah.
were disastrous, and he missed for all his first team, and he is a fabulous defensive player. He missed Dragic on that corner 3 that was the real backbreaker. There was nobody within 10 feet. Oh,
Hey,
there
Kurt.
he is.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I logged in. It looked like you all were working with someone else.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to ask the first question. How is the baby?
He is giving us a run for our money. I admit,
Oh,
he's doing well. He's 6 weeks old as of today, and
Yeah.
he is growing. He is thriving really well. I will say this transition to parenthood has been a very humbling experience.
It is.
It's our first, but we're excited. So
How's
Oh,
your
that-
sleeping?
I'm sorry.
How's your sleeping?
It could be better. Get a little better. I'm back at work. I took a few weeks parental leave, but I'm back working. So during the week, my wife has been taking on a lot of the parenting duties, and I tend to take control over the weekend. So we figured out a system. So between the both of us.
Awesome.
We had our pediatrician, he said, you should do the late night feeding with the bottle, even though, Nancy was breastfeeding. So one night I'm sitting there and I'm watching Letterman, and I looked down, and my son's stomach, it's Peter. His stomach is like, almost looks like he has a mini keg there. I'm just the whole bottle, I'm just sitting watching. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're bonding.
That's how you do it.
All right. So you've been through the process before.
Yes. Yes.
I'm the moderator, so I'm always on this thing because no one would run against me, but I would like someone. So I could have a fundraiser at the Civic Center with a band. And Ann is chairman of the town council, and Jim is now chairman of the FinCom.
Hi, Jim. I don't think we've ever met.
I'm gonna kick this off just to get things going with a standard softball question. Of course, you want to give back to the community. Why else do you want to do this?
Well, I mean, primarily, in addition to giving back to the community, is also using the skills and expertise that I've developed in my practice for the good of the town. I've been wanting to get involved in municipal governance for a while, and part of it started actually from one of the cases that I worked on at Nixon Peabody that resolved several months ago, and the finance committee seemed to be the biggest and the best match, and that's part of why I wanted to get involved. The work I do with financial services and fiduciary litigation, particularly fiduciary litigation, part of my practice, where I spend, I mean, to be honest with you, most of my days dealing with trying to assess the prudence of trust transactions, advising trustees with respect to their fiduciary duties, helping them understand that regardless of your personal feelings, maybe with respect to a beneficiary, how they must go about their duties, how to follow the Prudent Investor Act. So that's part of why, that's mainly why I wanted to get involved with the Finance Committee. And I did review some of the other town committees, and this seems to be the best match for my skills, and I think I'll be able to make the biggest impact.
So you just sort of answered my second question. What attributes or strengths do you think you would bring? And yeah,
All right, jump the gun.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you got you
It's a
cut
lawyer.
ahead. You don't view this as a stepping stone to some political advancement, do you?
No, I mean, I don't see myself as a politician, to be honest with you. At least as of right now. I mean, I'm a lawyer. That's my profession. This is about me being a resident of the town and wanting to contribute to how we're developing. I mean, before, I'll give you guys a little bit of my history. Before I moved to Wakefield 4 years ago, I lived in Melrose for several years before moving to Massachusetts. And when I was in Melrose, I was just a renter. So to be honest with you, I didn't really pay attention to what was going on in the municipality. When we moved to Wakefield and became homeowners and thought, okay, this is a place we want to put roots down. For me, this is around the same time where that municipal case that I was working on started to get heated up, and I started to learn a lot. I thought, we're now homeowners. We need to pay attention to what's going on, start paying attention to some of the town meetings. I think about a year or two into living in town, I started attending the town meetings to get a better understanding. And I think just as being a stakeholder, I just want to use my skills to help the town. But I don't, at this point, and to be honest with you, I've never thought about running for a political office. But this is about giving back as a resident.
I was going to ask you about your participation in town meeting, but I always happen to notice when you look up and smirk at me when something's happening.
Really? No, you sit in the front. That's why. Yeah.
At the one in the auditorium, you looked at me like, "This is nuts." We won't get into what it was all about, but so it was fun. I know your participation recently.
Yeah, I've gone to several of them where there were some hotly contested issues in town, and which is helpful for me. Again, I'm a relatively new resident, so you know, I may see things that are reported online, I may see things at events here and there, but town meeting is actually a very informative process for me as a resident. I usually read the warrants in advance to try to get an understanding. Sometimes, you know, I look at committee meetings in advance, but it's very informative, very helpful. So I enjoy it. I enjoy attending. I've been trying to rope my wife into coming with me. I haven't been successful yet, but we'll make it happen for the future. But I do enjoy the process, and I love the fact that we as members of the public have a direct role in as the legislative body for the town. That is what's the most impressive for me. Melrose is not like that, and when I discovered that that's what Wakefield was like, and I learned about public meeting, open meeting laws with respect to municipal governments in the Commonwealth during that case, I thought, okay, not only am I learning to apply this in this case, but also I am a resident of a town where I get to show up and be a part of this legislative body. So that's why I enjoy it.
I got to tell you, everybody thinks it's corny or that I want to hold on to this position. I think that is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You know, when I first ran, I read every single appeals court or SJC case. Yeah. And, you know, back when they were arguing over how many mules or the, I mean, to this day, west of Worcester, they spend 2-3 hours on a fire truck. Yeah. You know, guys come with, well, we should get this truck. It's so cool. I mean, I always, you know, I lament when some town switches over. It's just, you know, it is one of the cool things. And I've got to tell you, a lot of issues, people have changed my mind, or change what I was thinking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into that, but I really think that's a very cool thing. You can show up and decide how the money gets spent.
Exactly.
So you really can't complain that much if you're not
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I have one more question. I gotta get on my soapbox there, but nah, I don't have any more questions. You covered all the stuff. You covered my questions. Jim's up
Yep.
next because he actually knows the nuts and bolts of FinCom and how it works and all that stuff. So James, take it away.
Did he freeze again? Jim?
As far as the FinCom,
I'm
am
sorry.
I okay?
Yeah, your picture is frozen. I'm wondering if we could hear you better if you shut the video off. Sometimes that helps with bandwidth. Yeah. I can start. Want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I was going to dial in,
Yeah.
on my
No,
phone.
you're good now,
You're
Jim.
good now. Without a picture, you're good. We can hear you.
Yeah, and there's no other urchins here taking my bandwidth, so I don't know what's going on. So as far as the Finance Committee goes, are you familiar with the role that the Finance Committee plays in town government?
Yes, my understanding that the committee operates just similar to any other legislative committee in the legislative body, where you assess the budget recommendations from the town administrator, you assess expenditures and make recommendations to the town at town meeting. It's my understanding that really this body is meant to essentially expedite the process for those of us who are attending town meeting who can't get into the nuts and bolts. We rely on the assessment and the recommendations of our fellow citizens who are on the committee.
Yep, no, that's great. That's generally who we are. Exactly. We help the town department heads. We have subcommittees that review budgets line by line at that level, and we roll it up. And again, the recommendation is short sometimes by Dan and probably by me in the future, but the background that goes into it is substantial. So that's good. As far as committee dedication to the committee and the time commitment, are you familiar with that at all? Excuse me.
Yes, so somewhat. I actually did talk about this during the last time I was through this process. My understanding that there are monthly meetings, but there's also an expectation you get involved in one or more subcommittees, and the meetings tend to occur in the evenings. But it's my understanding that their meetings tend to be more frequent when town meeting is approaching.
Yes, so leaning into the fall and then into the spring, it can be, twice a month when the budgets are available to review. The subcommittees, sometimes you'll try to meet on a morning before work, for example, because the department head's available and it just works out that way. So I think you covered it. The committee commitment, it has its ebbs and flows. When it's active, it's important to make as many as you can, because there's just a lot happening during that time schedule. Speaking of subcommittees, if you were part of our committee and you think about departments around town, what subcommittee might interest you or subcommittees?
I've given some thought to this. Well, I do have things that just based on my personal interest where I will likely be leaning towards, like the school budget subcommittee, for example, and potentially town hall. But I do recognize that if I'm appointed to the committee, I'm new, and there might be a need for a new committee member to serve on another subcommittee. So I'm completely open to taking the guidance of other members of the committee, and particularly you Jim, as chairperson, as to where my skills might be best suited as a new member. But my leaning, particularly given the fact that I know that the high school is about to go through some potential renovations that could be costly, and I just like education in general. That's where I will likely be leaning in terms of an interest if I had a chance to choose.
Okay, very good. Yep. As far as yourself, your approach when it comes to finances, whether professional involvement or personal involvement, what's your approach to kind of financial planning, if you would?
Yeah, I am I'm very thorough, at least with respect to personal finance. My wife and I we track budgets on a month basis. I actually calculate our net worth every single month. We have an Excel file where we keep track of everything. I recognize that obviously because of the markets go up and down, it varies, but part of us doing that is to force us to be mindful at least once a month. We used to, kind of embarrassed to say this, we used to have this thing called Money Makers Brunch, where we don't plan it as a brunch anymore, particularly given that we have a kid, but we would have scheduled one Sunday a month that we would sit down and go through all our finances. And part of that has resulted from just what I had learned about like major problems that just families have, and it's always fighting over finances. So for us at the start of our marriage, we wanted to be very open and honest with each other and put everything on the table, and that's how we approach it. And it's actually been very helpful. I wouldn't say that I'm frugal. I spend money when I want, but it's everything is very thought out and based on an assessment of whether spending money on this item is prudent given our budget and also where we are financially, looking at our monthly net worth. We literally break down everything, all our accounts, track all of our investments. Part of that, Jim, has developed organically through the work that I do with trustees. So I'm dealing with large multi-million-dollar trust funds, mostly for financial institutions, but also for high net worth families. And I'm learning through that process, like how a lot of people have been able to not only develop wealth, but also protect it. And so I have naturally over the years grown to model my own management, my own finances to be the same way. And I think, and I kind of see, the town in terms of managing the town budget would be the same, like assessment of prudence, whether it makes sense, what does the town people want? That's how, if I were a member of the committee, I would approach assessment of expenditures.
All right, great, thanks. And congratulations on being a dad. And I assume your priorities have already been adjusted. So there you go.
Thank you.
Trey, I'm going to jump in with a few questions from town council point of view. Would this be the first municipal committee you've ever been a part of or sat on?
Yes, yeah. I haven't pursued any others other than finance committee.
But I mean, like even in the past, before coming to Wakefield, so this would be the...
This would be the first municipal committee. Yeah, when I lived in Melrose, I lived there for 5 or 6 years. I didn't serve on a municipal committee at all. And prior to that, I was living out of state. I came here directly after law school when I was living in Connecticut and participated as well.
So you're already so knowledgeable about how Wakefield runs based on just your interest in the homework you've done. What do you think is the greatest need in town services, or one of them that you see maybe finance committee could get involved in, or that you think should happen?
In terms of town services?
Town services. So is it through the school budget? Is it DPW? Is it, roads?
I think the school, the update up to high school is obviously is very important, and that's one of the things I highlighted a moment ago. But I will admit another thing that has been near and dear to me as a resident of town is the development of downtown. I know we're going through the revitalization process and it's not funded by the town. There's some funding from the state. But I think with respect to not only developing it, but also attracting more business to downtown. I don't know at this point in what capacity the finance committee could be involved with that. But I know that, for example, one of the things that was debated at the last town meeting was this economic development position and how that person could potentially help just help the downtown thrive. And that's just, from my perspective as a lay resident.
Yeah, and just little inside baseball, we have phenomenal candidates that have applied.
Great.
Steve and I were worried about it just because of the COVID timing, but no, we're really excited about that. And I agree. I think that is a huge addition to attract businesses. And so I'm really happy about that.
If you don't mind, if I may add to that, I think it also will help in terms of attracting residents. I think particularly if people are like someone like me, I'm not from the state. And when you're looking for a home, you may drive through a town, you're looking at downtown. I think that the more we invest in that, not only we're going to attract businesses, but we, can attract residents, can help with our, tax base. So that's kind of how I see it as a holistic way to help the town.
No, I think that's spot on. So you mentioned the high school. What is your position on whether or not we would need to push for an override or a debt exclusion? I assume the difference between both. But
Yeah.
obviously that's going to be a large discussion we'll have for that position.
Yeah, so my understanding, it was very difficult with respect to the Galvin Middle School as well years ago. I don't have an aversion to it. I recognize that if we do a 2.5 override, there'll be an increase in property taxes. And I know Melrose just went through this, I believe about a year ago. But I think the investments in the school is something that we need to pay careful attention to and strongly consider as residents of the town. I've only been inside the high school a few times, but I think that it seems like a lot of people in town feels like the high school needs some development. And I am not adverse to doing a potential override to have a modest increase in taxes in order to fund that. But I do recognize that if I were a part of the committee and we're assessing this, that I have to take all viewpoints into considerations. I can't, apply just my own position to try to, steer things into one direction. But I do think we need to take a hard look and consider, doing a 2.5 override if need be.
Well, as a graduate of 1984 Wakefield High School,
Oh yeah,
that building is exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think the chairs are the same. So yeah, I'm letting my personal opinion come in when it comes to that point.
We all have it, but it's like the same thing I tell my clients as fiduciaries. It's like you have you're going to have, we're human beings, we're going to have our opinion, but you just have to acknowledge that and consciously put it aside when you're assessing the job at hand.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. I'm great. Please, I can send it back to Bill, but give Darius my best.
Oh yeah, he's at a law firm now, right?
Yeah.
He's almost approaching a second year associate. He's doing well. He's knocking it out of the park.
He's such a great kid. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right,
Hey,
Bill.
do you have any questions for us?
I don't, but I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today and to be considered for this committee again. It's something that I really, really want to get involved in. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves to do the work for the town, and I hope I'll have the opportunity to serve. So,
thank you so much.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot for your time.
All right.
all right, thank you all. I'll log
Take
off.
care.
Okay.